If you're hearing this right now, pause for a moment, because this isn't background noise, and it's not something you just happened to click. Aries. There's a shift standing right in front of you. Not loud, not chaotic, but real. For a long time, you've been the one pushing forward, holding things together, carrying pressure no one ever saw. But this moment isn't asking you to fight. It's asking you to receive. In 2026, something begins to settle. Not just money, not just opportunity, but a sense of safety in your home, in your body, in your future. If you feel that quiet tightening in your chest right now, that's not fear, that's recognition. So before we go any further, ask yourself, what if this time, Aries, it's finally your turn? Stay with me, because what's unfolding next was never meant to bless only you. Aries, let me talk to you like I would if we were sitting across from each other right now. No noise, no rush, because I know something about you that rarely gets said out loud. You're not just strong, you're the one who moves first when everyone else freezes. The one who steps forward before the plan is clear. The one who carries the weight of momentum for others. And for a long time, that's exactly how life has treated you. As the engine, the initiator, the one who absorbs pressure so the rest of the room can breathe. But here's the part that feels different now. Quietly different. Lately, you may have noticed that the fire inside you doesn't want to burn the same way anymore. It's still there, just deeper, more intentional. You're not as interested in proving yourself. Not as willing to exhaust your body or your peace just to stay ahead. And that's not you losing your edge. That's you growing into something rarer. Because Aries, there's a kind of strength that doesn't come from pushing. It comes from knowing when something has already been earned. Think about the choices you made when no one was watching. The responsibilities you accepted because someone had to. The moments you kept going even when the reward was invisible. That wasn't wasted effort. It was preparation. And this is where 2026 begins to feel different in your bones. Not dramatic, not explosive, but stabilizing. Like the ground under your feet finally holding. Like exhaling without bracing for the next hit. Like realizing that home isn't just a place you protect. It's something you're allowed to feel safe inside. Here's a question I want you to sit with for a moment. When was the last time you let yourself imagine a future where you're not constantly on alert, not fixing, not managing, not carrying, just living? Because abundance doesn't always announce itself with noise, Aries. Sometimes it shows up as relief, as consistency, as the quiet confidence that tomorrow doesn't need to be fought. And if part of you feels emotional hearing that, there's nothing wrong with you. That's your nervous system recognizing a new pattern. One where support doesn't disappear. One where stability doesn't come with strings attached. You were never meant to be in survival mode forever. You were meant to build something that lasts. Something your family can feel. Something your body can trust. Something that doesn't require you to stay tense to keep it alive. And the reason this moment matters so much isn't because it changes who you are. It's because it finally allows you to be who you've always been beneath the armor. So stay right here with me, because as this story continues, we're going to talk about why this shift doesn't stop with you, why the energy you're stepping into begins to touch your home, your lineage, and the people who love you in ways you may not expect. And once you see that, you'll understand why this moment was never random at all. Aries, there's something I want to say to you that most people never do, and I want you to hear it without judgment. You didn't become strong because life was easy. You became strong because someone had to be. You learned early how to stand in front of things, problems, decisions, moments when hesitation would have cost too much. So you stepped up, again and again. You were the one who chose direction when everyone else was still arguing. The one who made the call when silence felt safer. The one who protected the structure, the income, the people who relied on you even when they didn't say thank you. And you did it without drama, without asking to be seen. That's the part most people miss about you. They see the fire. They don't see the weight you carry underneath it. Because being Aries isn't just about boldness. It's about responsibility, about being the first one in the room to feel the pressure shift, and deciding quietly that you'll hold it so others don't have to. But here's the truth that rarely gets spoken. Living like that for too long teaches your body that rest is risky, that letting go means something might fall apart, that asking for help could slow everything down. So you stay alert, even when nothing is wrong. You stay strong, even when you're tired. And Aries, I want to ask you something gently. When was the last time you allowed yourself to be supported without feeling like you owed something back? Not strategically, not temporarily, but genuinely. Because strength does not mean carrying everything alone anymore. It never did. Real strength knows when it's safe to set something down, when to loosen the grip, when to trust that the structure won't collapse just because you stopped holding it together with force. You may notice lately that you don't bounce back the way you used to, not because you're weaker, but because your system is wiser. It's asking for sustainability now, for peace that lasts longer than a victory moment, for a life that doesn't demand constant readiness. That's not you losing momentum. That's you outgrowing survival. And there's something quietly courageous about that, because it takes more bravery to receive than to push, more honesty to admit you've been carrying too much, more maturity to say, I don't have to do it all the hard way anymore. You were never meant to be a lone engine forever. You were meant to become a foundation, one that doesn't shake every time pressure arrives, one that others can rest against without you burning yourself out. So stay with this feeling for a moment. The one that says something old is loosening. The one that feels unfamiliar, but relieving at the same time. Because as this continues, we're going to talk about why this shift in you begins to change more than just your inner world. Why it starts touching your sense of security, your home, and the way abundance finally finds a place to stay. And once you notice that, you'll understand why carrying everything was never the end of your story. Aries, let's slow this moment down together. Not to analyze it, just to feel it. There's a quiet shift moving through your life in 2026, and it doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives like weight lifting off your shoulders, like a room finally settling after years of noise. Astrologically, this year touches the parts of your life connected to value, security, home, and ownership. But I want to translate that into real language, the kind your body understands. This isn't about winning big. It's about things staying, money that doesn't disappear as fast as it arrives, decisions that don't keep you awake at night, a sense that what you're building actually has somewhere solid to land. For someone like you, Aries, that's a big deal, because you're used to movement, acceleration, always pushing toward the next thing. But this energy doesn't ask you to charge ahead. It asks you to let stability catch up to you, and that can feel unfamiliar at first. You may notice that your priorities are shifting in subtle ways. You care less about speed, more about sustainability. You start thinking about your living space differently, not as something to manage, but as something to return to. You begin to imagine a future where your home feels calm, where money supports your life instead of controlling it, where you're not bracing for the next demand the moment you exhale. And here's a gentle question to sit with. What if security doesn't make you weaker, Aries? What if it makes you clearer? Because when the pressure eases, you see more. You choose better. You lead from intention instead of urgency. This is one of the few times when the energy around you isn't testing your strength. It's responding to it. You've already proven you can survive. You don't need another lesson in endurance. What you're learning now is how to let things stay steady without forcing them. That's why abundance in this season doesn't rush you. It stabilizes you. It shows up as consistency, as trust, as the feeling that you don't have to keep checking over your shoulder. And Aries, I know part of you might wonder if slowing down means missing out. If choosing stability somehow dulls your fire. But listen closely. Fire doesn't go out when it's protected. It burns longer. You're not being asked to give up your drive. You're being asked to give it a place to rest between movements. And when that happens, something remarkable begins to take shape. Your home becomes more than a structure. It becomes a nervous system reset, a place where your body learns that it's safe to soften. Your relationship with money becomes quieter, less emotional, more grounded, and that calm doesn't stop with you. As this continues, you may start noticing how your steadiness changes the atmosphere around you, how people close to you respond differently, how the space you inhabit begins to feel lighter. So stay with me here, because what we're moving toward next isn't just about what you receive. It's about how this new stability begins to ripple outward, touching your family, your sense of belonging, and the deeper meaning of what home truly is. And once you feel that connection forming, you'll understand why this phase had to arrive quietly, so it could last. Aries, there's something important I want you to notice, and it's subtle, so stay with me. When your life begins to feel steadier, it doesn't happen in isolation. You might think this shift is just about you, your money, your choices, your sense of safety. But what's really happening moves further than that. Because when you soften, the room softens. When you exhale, others feel permission to do the same. This is how healing actually travels. Not through speeches, not through effort, but through presence. You may already be seeing small signs of it. A conversation at home that feels less tense than it used to. Someone close to you sleeping better. A child laughing more easily. A partner or family member opening up without you having to push. None of that is accidental. For a long time, Aries, you've been the emotional thermostat of your home. When you were tense, the air felt tight. When you were stressed, everyone felt it, even if no one said a word. That's not pressure. That's influence. And now that your inner world is beginning to stabilize, the people around you feel safer without knowing why. Here's a gentle question for you. What if the greatest gift you ever give your family is not protection, but calm? Because calm changes everything. It changes how decisions are made, how conflict resolves, how money is talked about, how silence feels. When you stop bracing, the house breathes. When you stop waiting for the next problem, others stop anticipating it too. This is what it means when we say abundance blesses your home, not just financially, energetically. It's the difference between a place you defend and a place you belong. And Aries, I want to say this clearly. You don't need to fix anyone. You don't need to rescue anyone. You don't need to carry the future on your back. Your healing rewrites what home feels like for everyone, simply because it's real. Because when you choose stability over urgency, you model a new way of living. Your family may not say it out loud, but they feel it. They feel it when you pause instead of react. When you listen without planning the next move. When you sit down without checking the clock. Those moments matter more than you know. And if part of you feels emotional hearing this, that's not weakness. That's recognition. You're realizing that the role you're stepping into now isn't the warrior holding the door. It's the one who creates a space where others don't have to fight at all. So let this truth land gently. The stability you're allowing into your life doesn't stop at your edge. It ripples outward. And as we keep moving through this story together, we're going to talk about how this shift begins to show itself in ways you can actually feel. In your habits, your choices, your relationship with the future. Because once you see those signs clearly, you'll understand just how close you really are to the life you've been quietly preparing for all along. Aries, there are signs that tell you you are closer than you think. Not signs you have to look for. Signs you feel. They don't come as predictions. They come as shifts in the way you move through your day. You may notice that money doesn't scare you the way it used to. You still respect it, but you no longer avoid the conversation. You can sit with numbers now, with plans, with reality, without that tightness in your chest. And that matters more than any promise ever could. You also begin thinking differently about time, about space, about what it means to settle without giving up who you are. You start imagining a home that feels steady, not perfect, just steady. A place where your nervous system can rest, where you don't have to stay alert to feel safe. And maybe for the first time in a long while, you let yourself picture a future that doesn't require constant movement. That doesn't mean you've lost your fire. It means you're learning how to aim it. Here's something subtle, but important. You might feel tired lately, but it's a different kind of tired. Not the kind that comes from hopelessness. Not the kind that drains your spirit. It's the kind that comes after long effort. The kind that says something is finishing, not collapsing, completing. And with that comes a new calm around big decisions. You don't rush the way you used to. You don't react as quickly. You pause, and that pause is powerful. Let me ask you something gently. When was the last time you trusted your timing instead of forcing it? Because this is one of the clearest signs that you're next in line. You're no longer chasing certainty. You're allowing clarity to arrive. That's not slowing down. That's alignment. Alignment feels quieter than struggle, less dramatic, but far more reliable. It feels like knowing when to say yes and when to wait. It feels like recognizing that not every door needs to be kicked open. Some open when you stop pushing against them. You may notice that your thoughts are stretching further now. Beyond the next week, beyond the next fix. You think in seasons, in years, in what actually lasts. That shift alone tells me something important about you. You're no longer living from urgency. You're living from intention. And intention changes everything. It changes the way abundance finds you. It changes how long it stays. It changes how much your life can hold without strain. So if you've been wondering why things feel different lately, why the noise has lowered, why the pressure doesn't hook you the way it used to, this is why. You're standing closer to stability than you've ever been before. And your system knows it. So stay here with me a little longer, because what we're moving into next is about something even deeper. It's about how this alignment begins to shape your identity, not as someone who survives, but as someone who builds. And once that realization settles in, the next chapter won't need to announce itself. You'll feel it. Aries, something important is happening inside you right now, and it might feel unfamiliar at first. For most of your life, you've been wired to conquer, to move forward, to break through resistance. That instinct saved you more times than you can count. It got you out of tight spaces. It kept you alive when hesitation wasn't an option. But here's the quiet truth. That way of moving was never meant to be permanent. What's unfolding now isn't about proving anything. It's about building something that doesn't require you to stay on edge. You may notice this shift in the smallest moments. You don't rush into decisions the way you used to. You ask different questions. Not, can I win, but will this last? That's not hesitation. That's wisdom. Because the energy surrounding you now doesn't reward competition. It rewards clarity. The kind of clarity that says, I don't need to fight for every inch anymore. I need to choose where my energy actually belongs. This is the moment where the warrior begins to soften into the builder. And that doesn't mean you lose your strength. It means your strength becomes sustainable. Let me ask you something gently. How many battles did you fight just because you thought you had to? How many wins still left you exhausted? You don't need another one of those. You need a foundation. A foundation doesn't shout. It holds. It doesn't rush. It supports. And in 2026, that's the kind of power you're stepping into. Wealth begins to show up differently when you stop chasing it through pressure. It comes through strategy, through steady choices, through boundaries that protect your time and your nervous system. You start saying no without guilt. Yes, without over-explaining. You stop mistaking urgency for importance. And here's something most people won't tell you. When you shift from conquest to creation, some people won't recognize you at first. They were used to your reaction speed, your fire, your availability. But that's not loss. That's evolution. Because the builder doesn't burn out the way the warrior does. The builder thinks in seasons, in structures, in legacy. You may feel moments of doubt. That's normal. Every transition away from survival brings a strange kind of silence. No alarms, no immediate threat, just space. And space can feel uncomfortable when you're used to constant motion. But sit with it, because in that space, something steadier is forming. A version of you that doesn't need to rush ahead to feel alive. A version of you that knows exactly what you're building and why. This is where your life stops being a series of reactions and starts becoming a design. So stay right here, because as this story continues, we're going to talk about how this shift becomes practical, how it shows up in the choices you make every day, the habits you change, the ways you anchor this new energy so it doesn't slip away. And once you see how simple those steps actually are, you'll realize you've already crossed the hardest part. Aries, now let's bring this a little closer to the ground, not to make it smaller, but to make it real. Because abundance doesn't anchor itself through big declarations. It stays through small, steady choices that your body can trust. You may feel a quiet pull right now to look at your life differently. Not with urgency, with honesty. You begin to glance back over the last 6 months, not to judge them, but to understand them. Where did your energy actually go? Where did it leak? Where did it stay? That awareness alone is a form of wealth. You might feel drawn to organize things that were left loose for too long. Paperwork that lived in a drawer. Numbers you avoided because they felt heavy. Conversations you postponed because timing never felt right. And here's what matters. You're not doing this from fear anymore. You're doing it from clarity. There's a difference your nervous system can feel. You may notice that you're more willing to talk about money now, not to defend yourself, not to control others, but to bring things into the light. A simple conversation at the kitchen table, a pause before spending, a decision to stop carrying financial stress alone. These aren't dramatic moves, but they are powerful ones, because abundance stays where the nervous system feels safe. And safety isn't created by rushing, it's created by rhythm. You sleep a little longer, you eat more consistently, you stop making big decisions when your body is tight or exhausted. That's not laziness, that's intelligence. Let me ask you something gently. What if the most responsible thing you could do right now is slow your inner pace instead of speeding it up? Because when your body relaxes, your mind becomes clearer. When your mind becomes clearer, your choices become cleaner. And clean choices compound. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You don't need a perfect system. You just need to stop forcing outcomes while you're tense. You begin to notice that when you wait until you feel grounded, things work out with less friction, less regret, less cleanup afterward. That's not coincidence. That's alignment becoming practical. This is where abundance stops being an idea and starts becoming a habit. A way of responding, a way of pacing yourself, a way of choosing sustainability over pressure. You may even feel moments of quiet pride, not the loud kind. The kind that comes from knowing you're finally taking care of yourself the way you take care of everyone else. And Aries, that matters. Because when you treat your energy with respect, life responds differently. Opportunities arrive without chaos attached. Support feels cleaner. Money stays longer because it isn't fighting your stress. So let these small actions matter. They are not insignificant. They are how you teach your life that it's safe to grow. And as this steadiness continues to settle into your days, something else begins to take shape quietly. A deeper understanding of who you are becoming. Not the one who survives, but the one who builds with intention. Stay with me here, because what we're moving into next is about how this grounded way of living starts redefining your identity from the inside out. And once that clicks, the final shift won't need to be forced at all. Aries, take a moment here with me. Just a breath. Nothing to do. Nothing to fix. Because if you're still listening right now, there's something you need to hear clearly. You didn't arrive late to this moment. You weren't overlooked. You weren't forgotten. You arrived exactly when you were ready to recognize it. So many people spend their lives waiting for a sign that they've been chosen, waiting for permission, waiting for certainty. But you were never meant to wait like that. What's different now isn't the timing of the world. It's the timing inside you. You're no longer asking from a place of pressure. You're no longer pushing from fear. You're standing in a quieter kind of readiness. And that's why this matters. If you're seeing this, Aries, you're not waiting anymore. You're next. Not because you forced your way forward. Not because you outworked everyone else, but because you finally made space. Space in your body. Space in your home. Space in your choices. And space is where abundance actually lives. You may notice that as this settles, there's less urgency in your chest. Less need to prove. Less need to stay ahead. Instead, there's a steady knowing. A grounded confidence that doesn't need to announce itself. That's how you know it's real. This isn't about a sudden breakthrough that burns bright and fades. It's about a life that becomes easier to inhabit. A home that feels calmer when you walk through the door. A future that doesn't feel like a fight you have to prepare for. A sense that you can finally exhale without checking what's coming next. And Aries, that's not small. That's everything you've been working toward without even realizing it. If you feel moved right now, you don't have to explain it. You don't have to analyze it. You can simply acknowledge it. You might choose to write a quiet affirmation in the comments. Something simple, something honest. Or you might just sit with this moment. Let it settle into your breath, into your shoulders, into the space around your heart. Both are enough. Because transformation doesn't always need a witness. Sometimes it just needs permission. And before we close this circle together, I want you to hold one image gently. Imagine walking into your home and feeling lighter. Not because everything is perfect, but because it's peaceful. Imagine knowing that what you're building now has roots, that it's not going anywhere, that it will hold. That's the energy you're stepping into, not someday, not when you're different, not when you've done more, now. So stay with that feeling as long as you need to. Carry it with you quietly. Let it guide your next steps without pressure. Because your home is about to feel lighter. And this time, It's real. Before you go, I want you to notice something. You didn't just listen to a message. You stayed. And that says more about where you are in your life right now than you may realize. Aries, this wasn't meant to hype you up. It was meant to wake something steady inside you. A reminder that you're not chasing anymore. You're aligning. And when alignment happens, life doesn't get louder. It gets clearer. If this message reached you at the exact moment you needed it, don't ignore that. Type one honest sentence in the comments. Not for me, for yourself. And if you're ready to walk this next chapter with people who understand your rhythm, your fire, and your need for peace, subscribe and stay close. This space isn't about quick answers. It's about real shifts, the kind that last. Trust yourself, Aries. You're closer than you think. And keep listening, because this journey doesn't end here. The next message is already forming.